Hello, my name is Rachel and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I wanted to talk you through how my husband and I saved £31,000 for our deposit, our stamp duty, our legal fees, and everything that we needed to buy our first home. So that does sound like an awful lot of money, and to us it did seem overwhelming. It's not something we thought about until we were kind of in our mid to late 20s. So we'd had a nice time, we'd enjoyed ourselves, we lived in London to start with, we actually met at university, so we had a good time, but we decided that then we wanted to prioritise buying a house. So this was around 5 years ago now that we bought our very first house, and we have since renovated it and added much more floor space to it and changed the kitchens and the bathrooms, and then also added some rooms upstairs as well, which is awesome. But we definitely bought a house that was a little bit of a doer-upper because we basically couldn't afford to buy the house that we wanted, but we knew that we wanted to get on the property ladder because as fast as we were saving money, property prices were going up. So we just kind of thought, we need to do this. We need to buy what we can actually afford rather than having big aspirations and dreams to buy something more than we could afford. So this house, when we bought it, was around the £400,000 mark. I've used this figure just to make it nice and simple. So our deposit, we only had a 5% deposit, so this £31,000 is including just a 5% deposit. At the time you could get 5% deposits, and it looks like at the moment you can get 5% deposits again. They did kind of disappear in the midst of COVID, but they're back, so that's great news for first-time buyers and people buying houses in general. So that was 10k in stamp duty. Now, at the moment, you do not need to pay for stamp duty. It's on a freeze, and that freeze has currently been extended. So stamp duty is on a freeze until June 2021, so you do not currently need to pay stamp duty if you're going to buy the house soon. But obviously those rates have changed and they've kind of stepping them back in again. But stamp duty is potentially payable by the time you buy a house, so it might be worth kind of budgeting that in. Then we had legal fees, transfer fees, and all of those combined. So I'll just run you through those just so you have an idea of roughly how much your legal fees would be. So we saved £1,500 for legal fees, and they came in a total just under. So they came in at £1,400 and £4.20, which included the legal fees of £700, transfer fees of £40, searches were £300, and then because we were using a mortgage to buy our house, the solicitor acted on our behalf to kind of get that mortgage for us. So that fee was £210. That fee was kind of more in the small print. It wasn't something that was in the upfront fees that we were given for the mortgage. So for the legal fees. So just check through all your contracts and just make sure you are definitely aware of everything that you need to pay the solicitors. Then the next one was ID checks for both of us. So they have to do that to make sure that any money that you're putting in hasn't come in from crime or anything like that. So that was £19.20 for both of us, and then land registry was £135, coming in at a total of £1,404.20 for legal fees. So I think that was quite a good deal, but I would look at saving sort of between £1,000 and maybe £3,000 for legal fees. If you've got a much more complex thing that you're buying, your legal fees might obviously be higher, or depending on what area you're living in. So that total came to £31,404.20. So now we're going to get on to how we actually saved that money. So my husband and I had both been working for years, so we decided to do this and start saving in our kind of late 20s, and we were both actually 30 when we kind of finally bought this house. So basically what we did when we were choosing to save for our house was we did lots of different things, but the main thing that we did was strip out costs that were not necessary. So both of us had been working for a few years, and since we started working, we'd obviously had pay rises and different bonuses throughout those years. But what we decided to do was to go back to what we were initially living on in London when we first moved there, and say that is all the money we need, because when we first moved there, we made it work, so we didn't need any of these kind of extra things on top. So that meant that both of us could save £500 a month. So in total, we were saving £1,000 a month. So that does sound like quite a lot of money, but we literally stripped everything out. So I used to really like going for dinner with friends, and then also with my then husband. He wasn't my husband, was he me? Just my boyfriend, I think he was at the time. So yeah, we basically stopped going for dinner, and if we ever did go for dinner as a kind of rare treat, it would be something like 2-for-1 Pizza Express with the voucher codes. So that was something I really enjoyed and something that I really missed. But I think I had to hold on to that kind of longer term goal that we wanted to be able to buy a house. So things like that disappeared. We also started making our own lunches to take into work. And then if for whatever reason we didn't have, we didn't have food in, or perhaps we'd been working late and hadn't been able to make a kind of packed lunch for the next day, then we would give ourselves a £3 budget for lunch. I don't know if that sounds a lot for some people, but basically what we did is get a £3 meal deal. Sometimes we do cheaper than that, but yeah, really kind of trying to be really, really frugal with our expenditure. What we also did is we massively cut down our living costs. So it wasn't just our kind of treat things that we cut down. So it wasn't just going out for dinner. It wasn't just having nice lunches at work. It was actually our living costs. So we lived in a flat that was 400 square feet in London. It was on a main road. It wasn't very nice, to be honest, but it was very, very cheap. Relatively cheap. So it was £1,100 a month. That doesn't sound that cheap, but for London, that is quite cheap. It was also really close to transport, so it meant that we could get to work very, very quickly. So that was really good. It was quite central as well, not super central, but quite central. So it meant that we weren't spending a fortune on travel costs. And to be honest, it was so tempting to leave that flat and to rent somewhere else because it was not particularly nice. I mean, it was advertised as having a garden, and the garden was literally where you put your bins out, and that was it. The landlords were lovely and they kept it really, really nice. Internally, it was done nicely internally, but it was very small. It only had a window at the back in our room, and then it also had a doors to go into the garden / bin area. So it wasn't particularly nice. And there was a conversation, I remember it, where we were like, I don't know if we could do this anymore, because it was so small. I think it was under 400 square feet actually, but it was so small, and on a quite busy road as well. And we were like, should we just rent somewhere else for like £1,500, £1,700, because we could have got something really nice for that. But we were like, no, that's not the goal. That's not part of what we're doing here. We don't need to rent somewhere new. If we move and we're spending an extra kind of £500, £600, £700 on rent every month, that is money that we cannot save, and that will slow us down to getting where we want to be. So we basically stayed in that flat. We were there for a total of 4 years, and it was absolutely tiny, but we were happy there. It was fine, and it was to get us towards a goal. So if there's anywhere where you can kind of cut living costs as well, currently, if you can go and live with someone, that would be amazing. We didn't go back and move back in with any parents or anything like that, because they didn't live in London, and that's where we needed to be for work. But yeah, anywhere where you can cut those kind of costs. We also did literally everything. So I switched our energy provider over to a much, much cheaper one. We stopped getting new mobile phone upgrades. We literally just stuck with the ones we had. Literally went through our whole budget, everything that we had, and cut everything dramatically so that we could get to that £1,000 a month. And then I think because I had all of those figures broken down separately, so I knew, okay, we need £20,000 for our deposit. That was a big goal to work towards. And then we were like, okay, we need £10,000 for our stamp duty. That's our next big goal to work towards. And then the final one was £1,500 for the legal fees. I think something else that we did that was really important to give us that goal of what we needed to save is we actually spoke to mortgage advisors early on, even before we had anything saved, just to understand how much we would need to have saved. I also looked into the cost of what I thought we'd be spending on legal fees, so I had that figure of about £1,500 in mind for that. And then I also had obviously looked at stamp duty and how much we would need to pay for that as well. So stamp duty is kind of ever changing, but it's good to kind of have a goal in mind as to how much you are going to need for that. So I had all of those things broken down. And I think that really helped, because I think when you've got tangible figures in front of you and you know exactly where you need to go to and get to, that can really help. Because I think if you don't have those figures written down somewhere, the thought of saving an abstract amount of money that you're not sure, you're saying, oh, I want to buy a house, but you actually don't know the different costs that you might incur to buy that house. You don't know if you could get a 5% deposit or anything like that. It's really important for me to have everything written down so I know exactly where we're focusing on going to. So it was really simple for us, because we were saving around £1,000 every single month, and we knew that we needed around £32,000 to be able to buy our first house. And that didn't feel like too much, and that didn't feel like it was too far away. So because we were saving that £1,000 every month, we knew that it would take 31 to 32 months, so just over 2.5 years, which I think can sound like it's an awful long way away, but actually, you know, to be able to buy your own home in that amount of time is absolutely incredible. I'm going to say you can at the moment add stamp duty to your mortgage if you want to, but obviously it means that you'll be lending, you'll be borrowing more. But I think if that was something that we were able to do at the time, we might have considered it, because as I said, house prices were going so high so quickly, and they were almost going up faster than we could save, if that makes sense. So the houses that we were looking at 6 months ago for maybe 350 were now 400,000. So anything that you can kind of do to get on the property ladder sooner really helps as well. And if that is doing something like adding stamp duty to a loan or something like that, then that might be worth doing. We also, in the meantime, made sure that we sorted out all of our credit ratings and things like that, made sure that we had reduced all of our debt that we possibly could. Because obviously having a very good credit rating helps you to get the kind of best mortgage that you can as well. So we had the lowest interest rate that was available at the time on a 5% mortgage. So yeah, we did it. It did take us about 2 and a bit years. So we did add in various bonuses that we got in along the way. So again, bonuses or any money that I made on the side, because I was doing some work on the side as well, would go into that pot of money, because that was not money that we were expecting to get. Bonuses were not budgeted into our money. So yeah, we just put literally everything that we got. So anything like, it makes it sound like a very kind of sad 2 years, but it was worth it. It definitely was worth it. This money that I'm talking about is all money that we personally saved for ourselves to go into this house. So yeah, it can be done. You definitely don't necessarily need the bank of mum and dad to help you out. I mean, it'd be amazing if they did. That's amazing too. And yeah, that's incredible. But yeah, if you can, this is basically, this video is to say that you can do it yourself. It won't take you as long as you think. Just kind of sit down and go through exactly how much money you need and exactly how much money you are able to save. Also on that note, because a lot of my videos tend to be around investing at the moment, and I am investing at the moment, but with that money that was for a deposit for our house, because one, I didn't know an awful lot about investing back then. It's kind of something that I've been doing for the last couple of years, but also two, because we really knew that we were going to need that money in the next couple of years. I did not invest that money, so it was in a mix of high interest savings accounts and then also in premium bonds, because I personally like premium bonds and like the idea of potentially winning money. But that is obviously not going to get the greatest return for your money. But because I knew that we would be looking to use that money in the next 2 to 3 years, I didn't want to risk putting it into investments. I think if I was looking to potentially buy a house in 5 or 10 years time, I would potentially be looking more at investing that money into stocks and shares and different funds as well, and opening up a ISA as well, so a stocks and shares investment ISA, because you can obviously make some good money from that. But I think when you know that you need that money in the next 2 to 3 years, and with things being so volatile and up and down, it wasn't something that I was comfortable with doing then. So just to say, that's where I saved all the money. And obviously with the premium bonds, we made a little bit of money here and there. We had a few checks for £25 come through, which is awesome. And then we also obviously made some money, a very small amount of money in interest over the course of that. So that is how we basically saved money for the house that we're currently living in. It looks very different to when we bought it. We've been really, really happy here, and we've really enjoyed kind of saving and renovating bits as we go, and turning it into a house that we're much, much happier in. Well, we've always been happy, but an environment that we're more happy to be in, if that makes sense. But yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do let me know if you have any questions. I can let you know what I think. I am by no means a financial expert. I'm just sharing my personal experience because I think it might be interesting, hopefully motivating, to show you that you can do this and you can buy your own house if you want to, and you can make it happen. You just need to know exactly how much you need to get there, and then make a plan to get there, and that is all you need. Thank you so much for watching, and have a really lovely day. Bye bye.